Welcome to our channel. Embark on a journey through our video series dedicated to comprehensively covering the content of the CITB book, Health, Safety and Environment Test for Managers and Professionals. Throughout these videos, we delve into the crucial topics outlined in the book. Section A, Legal and Management. Section B, Occupational Health, Well-being and Welfare. Section C, General Safety. Section D, High-risk activities. Section E, Environment. Section F, Specialist activities. In this particular video, we focus on Section B, 09, Hazardous substances. For your convenience, a link in the top right corner of the video allows easy navigation through the entire series. We are certain that by engaging with this video series, you will be thoroughly equipped to effectively handle your CSCS card. Keep in mind, the CSCS test typically lasts around 45 minutes, and scoring at least 45 out of 50 questions correctly is required to pass. Before we delve into the content, please show your support by liking and subscribing. Your support means a lot to us. Let's embark on this learning journey together.
Plumbers are removing lagging around pipes to repair a leak in a Victorian building. What is the significant risk to workers' health in carrying out this work? They are disturbing asbestos fibres that can be inhaled. They are releasing flying fragments that can injure a person. They are disturbing bacteria-filled water that can cause infection. They are disturbing the dust gathered that can irritate eyes. Exposure to asbestos can cause which of the following three related health diseases? Asbestosis, bronchitis, silicosis, mesothelioma, pleural thickening. You have been asked to carry out alterations on a building built before the year 2000. What would be your first consideration? The building could contain fiberglass insulation. The building could contain asbestos-based materials. The building's finishings could be painted with lead paint. The internal walls could be made from lath and plaster. Why is it important to ensure all workers attend asbestos awareness training? To ensure workers meet the company's asbestos-related health and safety standards. To enable workers to identify potential asbestos-containing materials and to know what to do. To give workers enough knowledge to be able to remove the asbestos-containing materials. To keep workers' training records up to date and in line with legislative information. When an asbestos refurbishment survey needs to be conducted, it should be based on the project's schedule, access limitations, project's requirements, surveyor's fees. Which of the following is true regarding the risks from asbestos? 1. The earlier the date of first exposure, the greater the chance of recovery. 2. The most friable materials need higher levels of control. 3. Mesothelioma can be curable if treated with chemotherapy. 4. If not disturbed or damaged, it may not need removing. 1 and 2 only. 2 and 3 only. 3 and 4 only. 2 and 4 only. Why are cement, mortar and concrete-based materials hazardous to health? They can cause dizziness and headaches. They can cause skin burns and irritant dermatitis. They can cause muscle aches and spasms. They can cause skin sores and abrasions. Site operatives have finished laying slabs and need to wash out the buckets that have stored the wet concrete. Which one of the following actions could they take which would not reduce their exposure to burns from this process? Using the correct cleaning agent along with hot water. Reducing the total amount of time taken to carry out the task. Using suitable washing and changing facilities afterwards. Wearing appropriate personal protective equipment. Why do cement and concrete burns pose such a serious risk to workers' health? They can damage skin nerve endings very quickly. They can increase body temperature rapidly. They can cause a loss of consciousness. They can spread to other parts of the body. Workers are washing out cement buckets on site. What is the main risk to their health? Respiratory difficulties, skin cancer, flu-like symptoms, burns to skin. Which of the following two main health risks can be caused by working with wet cement and concrete? Headaches, dizziness, skin burns, dermatitis, abrasions. You are delivering a health and safety briefing to operatives involved in a scheduled concrete pour. Does this work carry a risk to the operative's health? Yes, wet concrete can cause severe burns that can kill nerve endings, resulting in long-term damage. No, wet concrete can cause skin irritation and redness, but this is only temporary and it will clear up. Yes, wet concrete can cause burns to the skin's surface, but these are easily healed with medication. No, wet concrete is an alkali-containing substance, so it is safe if contact is made with the skin. Painters are using the correct process and suitable personal protective equipment to remove old lead paintwork within a domestic property. What is the next main priority? Ensure workers have a suitable location for rest breaks outside of the working area. Ensure property owners do not enter the working area until complete and the area cleaned. Ensure there are suitable and sufficient welfare facilities for the workers present. Ensure barriers and signage are erected to stop any unauthorised access to the working area. Which three construction activities are most likely to result in a worker being exposed to lead? Stripping old paint from windows and doors. Disturbing sprayed coatings. Repairing old gutterings. Hot cutting during demolition. Cutting slabs, curbs and concrete. Which one of the following could be a consequence to roofers who regularly repair lead flashings on properties? Long-term bronchitis through prolonged periods of working outdoors. Long-term musculoskeletal disorders due to manual handling. Long-term health issues relating to the exposure to asbestos. long-term health issues relating to the exposure to a toxic material. Painters are preparing paintwork in an old property by dry sanding. What is the significant risk to health from this process? Exposure to flying fragments. Exposure to excessive noise. Exposure to prolonged vibration. Exposure to toxic dust. A painter is using a hot air gun set at over 360 degrees centigrade to remove old paint from a timber frame window. What major health risk could they potentially be exposed to? They could be at risk of inhaling asbestos fibres. They could be at risk of receiving third-degree burns. They could be at risk of inhaling lead fumes. They could be at risk of being exposed to heat radiation. What are the 2 reasons why painters and decorators are advised to wet sand paintwork? 1. To produce a superior quality finish. 2. To reduce the risk from cuts and abrasions. 3. To stop possible toxic dust becoming airborne. 4. To reduce the noise levels from the process. 1 and 2 only. 2 and 3 only. 3 and 4 only. 1 and 3 only. A risk assessment for demolition work has identified a low exposure and concentration level of lead-based materials. What additional steps must be put in place by the employer to reduce health risks? Monitoring and recording the exposure levels of all workers. Displaying suitable warning signs highlighting the health risks. Cleaning all personal protective equipment after use. Stopping eating, drinking or smoking in contaminated areas. What is the next biggest health risk to construction workers after asbestos? Leptospirosis, silicosis, legionnaires, bronchitis. Labourers are not following the safe system of work issued and have decided to dry sweep an area where stonemasons have been cutting sandstone blocks. Why is the process of dry sweeping creating a significant risk to their health? The sandstone dust can cause sensitising dermatitis. The escape of silica dust can cause lung cancer. The mixture of all ground dusts can cause respiratory asthma. The bending action can cause musculoskeletal disorders. The 3 main effects inhaling respirable crystalline silica (RCS) can have on a person's health is that they can develop lung cancer, heart valve disease, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, deep vein thrombosis, silicosis. Workers exposed to low levels of respirable crystalline silica (RCS) over a prolonged period will have no long-term health issues. Is this correct? Yes, this will have no effect on the person because the levels are minimal. No, inhaling even a small amount of toxic material can affect a person's digestive system. Yes, this long time frame allows the body to recover and regrow damaged tissue. No, there is a risk that this will cause hardening and scarring of the lung tissue. Exposure to respirable crystalline silica, RCS, is harmful to a worker's health as it can increase the risk of kidney disease, cause deep burns and damage nerve endings, develop into acute asthma that is not reversible, cause recurring eye infections that require surgery. You are writing a risk assessment for the refurbishment of an old bathroom, and one of the main tasks to be controlled is the removal of tiles from the walls. Which one of the following, if not controlled sufficiently, would be the main health hazard of this work? If the tiles are broken into sharp fragments, they could puncture the skin, causing hepatitis. If large dust clouds are created and then inhaled, there is a chance of contracting asbestosis. If bare skin makes contact with dirty tiles, then bacteria can be ingested, causing silicosis. If fine dust particles are created and inhaled, there is a chance of contracting silicosis. You are writing the risk assessment for stonemasons who are working on a historical restoration project which involves carving and removing rock, sand and clay. Which one of the following would you list as the main health hazard? The inhalation of fine dust when shaping materials can cause breathing difficulties and acute silicosis. The moving and handling of materials into position can cause muscle fatigue and back injuries. The constant hitting of materials with various hand tools can result in acute tendinitis. The manipulation methods used to shape materials create fine fragments that can penetrate skin. Which one of the following is not a key stage of a control of substances hazardous to health, COSHH, risk assessment? Eliminate the use of the substance. Identify who is at risk from the substance. Erect suitable warning signs on storage areas. Identify the hazardous substances. If it is not reasonably practicable to prevent exposure of workers to substances hazardous to health, which of the following must be considered first? The instruction, training and supervision required. The use of sufficient control measures to control exposure. The introduction of health surveillance arrangements. The continual monitoring of workers' exposure. Work procedures for decorators need to be changed from applying paint by hand to using a spray application. What main document needs to be reviewed before these changes can be implemented? The provision and use of work equipment risk assessment. The material safety data sheets. The health surveillance guidance. The control of substances hazardous to health risk assessment. You have been made aware that workers on site are using a highly toxic cleaning agent unsafely, and you are not certain if the necessary paperwork is in place. Which two of these options are the first you must implement to reduce the risks to these workers? 1. Review the personal protective equipment PPE being worn by workers and make them aware of the hazards. 2. Erect appropriate barriers to stop any unauthorised access to the work area and display warning signs. 3. Stop the work immediately, ask the workers to leave the area and thoroughly ventilate the workspace. 4. Instruct a competent person to carry out a control of substances hazardous to health, COSHH, risk assessment. 1 and 2 only. 2 and 3 only. 3 and 4 only. 1 and 4 only. Inhaling old mould spores during demolition work can expose workers to which one of the following diseases? Aspergillosis, leptospirosis, Legionnaire's disease, silicosis. A painter is using a highly pressurized airless spray gun to apply paint to a large volume of walls and ceilings. Which one of the following is a major health risk of this work? The potential for a respiratory condition to develop from the release of hazardous fumes. The potential for loss of hearing due to the noise levels emitted. The potential for nerve damage to develop from the high level of vibration exposure. The potential for loss of a finger, hand or arm due to fluid injection. Absorption of a hazardous substance happens when it passes through the stomach after digestion, then into the bloodstream. Passes through unbroken skin or cuts, then into the bloodstream. Passes through the skin by piercing, then entering the bloodstream. Passes through the lungs by breathing in, then filters into the bloodstream. Painters and decorators working on old lead paintwork are at risk of toxic substances entering their body by which of the following two ways? 1. Injection through the skin by the tiny sharp particles created during sanding. 2. Absorption through the skin by directly touching it with fingertips. 3. Ingestion if it is on the hands during eating, drinking or smoking. 4. Inhalation of the fine dust particles created by the sanding process. 1 and 2 only. 2 and 3 only. 3 and 4 only. 1 and 4 only. Which two of the following are not stated in a Control of Substances Hazardous to Health COSHH risk assessment? Properties of the substance. Local toxic waste disposal sites. Activities that create high exposure. Meanings of symbols on the substance. Information on health effects. What procedure must employers put in place if a worker is liable to be exposed to substances hazardous to health? Appropriate medical insurance. Access to a health physician. Appropriate health surveillance. Access to mental health support. What is the main purpose of carrying out health surveillance on employees who regularly work with hazardous substances? To detect any medical problems as early as possible. To allow appropriate first aid equipment to be in place. To identify changes needed to substance suppliers. To protect against future medical compensation claims. In a joinery workshop that assembles large quantities of hardwood doors, suitable control measures have been implemented following a Control of Substances Hazardous to Health COSHH assessment. Which one of the following will be the next stage? To update the assessment within the next 6 months. To carry out regular monitoring routines to ensure efficiency. To inform all first aiders of the potential health risks identified. To issue the assessment to all affected operatives. You are coordinating the clean-up process of a hazardous substance spillage on site. The correct personal protective equipment, PPE, has been issued to the workers involved. It is important that these workers also maintain a high standard of personal hygiene whilst carrying out this work. Is this correct? Yes, it ensures that the PPE issued is kept clean and maintained properly and can be safely used by other workers after the completion of the task. No, employers cannot insist that employees keep themselves clean whilst at work and the PPE covers them up whilst completing the task. Yes, it ensures that cross-contamination is significantly reduced after the PPE is removed, supporting control measures for the task. No, this has no impact on the quality of work that employees produce, as long as they wear the PPE correctly when completing the task. A team of labourers need to undertake work activities within a segregated area of the site, which will require the use of hazardous substances. What must now be implemented to ensure that these hazardous working activities are effectively controlled? Constant supervision during the tasks to ensure that workers are adhering to the safe system of work. Toolbox talks to make workers aware of how to identify a toxic material and how to use it safely. Training sessions to provide workers with information on how to act safely in the event of a toxic spillage. Instruction and training to raise worker awareness of the dangers of exposure and the precautions to take. Which one of the following details must be included in a safe system of work before using a hazardous substance? Information on required training. Information on health effects. Information on environmental impacts. Information on the supplier. Under the Control of Substances Hazardous to Health Regulations, COSHH 2002, which one of the following legal requirements is an employer not expected to do? Identify harmful substances that may be present in the workplace. Establish how workers will be exposed to the materials and be harmed. Provide monitoring and health surveillance when appropriate. Facilitate training sessions on the risks of exposure to lead. A quantity of new hazardous substances have arrived on site, and they have been stored together without referencing the safety data sheets. Which one of the following could be a consequence? They could get mixed up with old stock and affect application. They could react with each other and cause a major incident. They could be logged incorrectly and alter stock control records. They could be unsafely stacked and overloaded, resulting in spillage. You are writing a Control of Substances Hazardous to Health COSHH risk assessment. How could the safety data sheet that accompanies the substance help you? By confirming how much material can be effectively applied per square metre to complete the task. By determining the type and correct affordability of the personal protective equipment required. By identifying the possible health implications and severity of risk posed to those using the material. by establishing that the quantities purchased are sufficient in number for completing the task. During the early stages of site setup, which of the following must be considered first regarding the storage of hazardous substances? 1. The location of the storage containers. 2. The segregation requirements. 3. The access and egress for delivery. 4. The supply level requirements. 1 and 2 only. 2 and 3 only. 3 and 4 only. 1 and 4 only. You are in charge of setting up a new construction site. What must be done when a control of substances hazardous to health risk assessment has determined that certain substances on this site will need to be stored separately? Create a suitable storage area with adequate ventilation and extraction facilities to hold all identified materials within the zone. Install a suitable storage area with boxes to hold appropriate safety equipment for material use stored within the zone. Identify a suitable storage area and check the material's compatibility with others to be stocked within the zone. Make sure a suitable storage area is positioned next to the site office and that segregation shelves are installed within the zone.
Congratulations on your progress. Every step brings you closer to your goals. Keep embracing knowledge until you achieve your desired success. Look for the link in the top right corner to seamlessly transition to the next video.